Welcome back to our content. This is tapered column and rafter knee joint and splice detailing or connection integral structures. And if you take a look on the screen here, you can see where we were before and we had done this before. So this is where we were and this is what we've done for our splice. So we can apply the same splice here also and on that here also. So let's first of all work with the joint here. So the knee on the knee joint here, I'll come under PEB by just typing the PEB word here, then come to PEB knee. Then I want to, once I've selected that, you'll be able to see my cursor changes to a plus sign, and you can see the instruction here, select column component. And I'll pick the column component, then come to rafter component. This will be my rafter. Select by left clicking. So once I've selected, I just right click and come to interrupt just to terminate that command, and you can see the connection in place, but it's not nicely done. So you can just go ahead and click update PEB updater to update it to a slightly standard connection. So this one is what we'll come to edit. We'll come to navigate and select rotate with mouse, and I'll pick my rotation point and hold my left button on the mouse and move my mouse like that, so that we'll be able to rotate our model like that. So this particular connection is not good for me, and we want to, it's not good for us though, but we want to modify this to make it somehow look professionally done. So to do that, just double click on the knee joint connection there, so, and give it some time to load that information for the dialog box. So from the dialog box here that has just appeared here, we'll key in our preferred settings here. Then from there we'll be able to what we've keyed in will reflect on this side. So on the projection end here, on this projection here, you can key in maybe 50 right there, and just come here and click modify to see what it reflects on this far end. You'll be able to see it adjusts itself to according to the dimension just keyed in. So let me just give it some time to reflect that on this far end, and you can see that has extended. Now we want to go to bolt section. Under bolts, I'll come to parts first of all, and maybe define the thickness and the width of our end plate. So to make it more visible, let me just come to navigate, or you can just go ahead and press Ctrl R and pick your rotation point. You can see that the width of our plate is slightly okay, but we can just go ahead and try change it maybe to 250, so that we just see the changes how they work here. And I can change this to the thickness of the end plate to 20 millimeter, and I'll go ahead and click modify, and that the changes will reflect here. You can see it has changed. It was a little bit wider, but it has changed to 250. Now we want now to work on the bolts and the stiffeners. So we want approximately 8 bolts here, and with the stiffeners in between the bolts. So what I'm going to do first, I'm going to come to bolts here first, under bolts. So under bolts, let me just get rid of this far end here, and maybe I want from from the center to the center of this bolt, center of that bolt, I need it to be approximately 100. So if I click 100 and come to the other end and see how it reflects, I come to rotative mouse, and I want to see it from this far end. You can see this is 100. That is 100, and we can confirm that later on by taking the measurements. So once I've done so, I'll add some washers there, and I'll change the bolt dia. I'll come to maybe 20. I can use 20 millimeter and change the bolt standard here. I always work with BS standards and pick on 8.8 XOX, and I can add some tolerance there of maybe 2 millimeter is okay. Now in here we'll have some details here, and we have approximately maybe 7 bolts at a distance of 100 millimeter, and we can key in like that, and you can start it from any direction here. So once I've done so, I'll have the bolts in place. You can see that, and you can see also we have some stiffeners here protruding outward, and this totally messes our objective. So we have to get rid of some stiffeners that tries to mess our work. Now let me just come here and click on interrupt and just come here and get rid and left and leave that space empty. And I'll come here and key in an offset of 50 here. Just type 50 right there and click modify. So once I've clicked modify, and let's see whether that will be reflected. And that has been reflected to this section, or we can just leave it as it is because there is 50 is okay. We just key in 50, and you can, what we do, just try change this to 6 and click modify and see how the changes will be reflected. Not well done. So let me just bring it back 7 and come here under presets, and I can just leave this empty and click modify. If I click modify, that section will be empty. And if I come to bolts once again, let's come to bolts and try get rid of this 50 and click modify. If I click modify, let's see that has changed, and that's exactly what we wanted to see. I'll come to navigate and want to rotate this. So there's some stiffeners that we want to get rid of. So you can even see the bolts here. So if I come to delete here, I can come and delete the bolt number 1 here and just type number 1. And if I come there and just go ahead, once I've keyed delete 1, I'll click modify, and that, hope that will be deleted. Let me just zoom out and just double click on it once again. And maybe number 2, I want to delete space, then number 2, then I'll go ahead and click modify. Perfect. What has been deleted is the previous one. So let me just get rid of that, and we need we want to get rid of bolt number 2. Let me just to give it some time to show that information, or to reflect that information, and that is not showing it well. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to just click everything, modify, and we go back to our initial step, and let me key in here 50, and that will be, I hope that offset will work. It's still not working, and we can get rid of that. So let's leave it as it is, because we don't want to take so much time there. And if I zoom close and come back to stiffeners here, so if I come to stiffeners, I'll have a way of controlling the number of stiffeners I want. I'll come here, maybe I don't want a stiffener 1 and 3. So if I click that and space and click modify, I'll be able to get rid of stiffeners that I don't want. So stiffener number 1 will be in place, and maybe 3, I want 1 to be in place and don't want 3, and you'll be able to see we have the third one on the other end. So I already have my presets in place for that particular knee joint. I'll come to knee joint right there and click load. So if I load that, you'll be able to see the settings that I had used previously. So if I click on parameters, you'll see I have the setting in place, and the type of knee joint I'd picked, and the part thickness I just left it at default, but you can change that, the width to 250 and thickness to your preference, and width here on the width here, you can change this end plate here to a different one, or you can change that width of this far end to a different dimension. Let me just come to navigate, and I want to rotate that and share with you what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is you can change this width of this plate here But so let me just double click on it once again, so we have a connection between our model and the editor dialog box. So where we change the thickness, you can change the thickness here, and also the width, it has not been enabled. Let's pick a different one. If we pick on that, the width thickness is that the thickness can be keyed in there, and all that. So this is where you manipulate everything and change the material on that spot. And additional stiffener, maybe you want this stiffener to not clash with this stiffener not to clash with these stiffeners here. So what I'm going to do, I'll show you how you can adjust it by coming. Let me just double click there. Now to adjust it, I want it to move slightly upward. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to key in maybe 80 here. I've clicked so many, and let me just delete that and delete that. So I want to delete everything there and click delete. Let me just change that to 80. If I click on 80, you'll be able to see how it changes. If I come here also and key in and maybe key in 80, you can see that it has changed its position, and maybe come here, maybe key in 80 and click modify. We'll be able to move it slightly down or up. So if you key in a high number, it will come closer to this stiffener here, and that clash will not will be a problem to solve. Now let me just take it to 30, and if I click modify, we'll be able to have that in place, and it will adjust itself to that position. Now that's okay. And now let's just end it by loading my previous settings here. Load that and click modify. So if I click modify, I'll have my settings working for us. So you can see the settings I had used previously by just going to bolts here. You can see what I had used. If I come to additional stiffeners, you can see what I had used, all that. If I come to parts, you can see what I had used, but I left it, the thickness and the width and the thickness I left at default, and parameters, the full image of that. Now, if I come to navigate here, I'll be able to rotate this, and you see how this looks. And maybe this stiffener, it has a black color code. So I want to change that black color code to a different color. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to pick on stiffeners. So under stiffeners here, I'll come to additional stiffeners. That's where I'll be able to change that. So I'll come here and change that class to maybe 13. Let's try 13, key in 13. 13 and click modify. If I click modify, you'll see some changes coming on that spot. So let's just give some time to process that information, and it's not the exact one that we had targeted. So it is this one at the bottom end, at the top here, and just key in 13, and we click modify. That also will change. You can see that how that will change. So once you've done so, what I'm going to do next is to complete this stiffener here, this splice. So this splice is very easy. I'll close this, then come to splice. On this splice and pick the main component is this, and the secondary component is that, and I'll just give some time to load that information, and boom, we have this in place. We've created a splice between these two rafters. So I'll double click on it once again like that, just to get more details about it through editor dialog box. So from the editor dialog box, I'll be able to change this to a different setting, and I'll come maybe there and click on my preset splice and load. And the moment I load, you'll be able to see the settings I had used previously. But if I go through these 5 tabs, like here, you can see have a preview of that. And if I come to bolts, you can see the bolts and center to center distances of the bolts I had used. And if I come to parts here, you can see the width of the plate and the thickness of the plate I had used, and the special stiffeners here. You can see I left at default and I haven't entered anything. So as it is okay. And probably I don't need how these, I don't like how these stiffeners has been created. So I'll come to stiffeners here. Under stiffeners, I'll try change to a different stiffener and click on that drop down arrow and pick on this type and do the same thing here and pick on a different type. And maybe let me just pick on that, and this one also I'll pick a different one, and all that I have to change the chamfers. Maybe I can key in 50 there, and key in a 50 there, and key in a 50 there, and key in a 50 here, like that. And also you can change the color code on the class here, on the classes here. Just change the color code on the classes there, and once I've done so, I'll just go ahead and click modify, and that will change everything. If it's still connected to my editor dialog box, and it will change. You just give some time to process that information, and we'll have that changes reflecting on this section here. So let's just give some time to process the same information, and we'll have that in place. So the problem we have here is our chamfer is very small. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to rework on my chamfer here. You can see this one by mistake we entered 5, so it should be 50. It should be 50, and this one also should be 50. So I just go ahead once again and click modify, and it will reflect everything as we have entered here. So let me just come to navigate, pick rotate, and I'll left click to my point of rotation. If I turn that like that, I'll be able to have that in place. So you can see so much symbols of welding or all weld symbols. To get rid of that, just walk out of that particular macro, then right click, left click, then right click and come to redraw. So everything will refresh, and you'll have a neat and well presented connection. You can see this very nicely done. So let's meet then on a different topic, where we'll now take you through on how we can create a ridge here. So a ridge will only work if you have a similar column on the other end. So I also share with you on how we can take the other one on the other end, and let's meet then. Bye bye.